Hello, hello. I am so excited today. I have Michelle Kenny, my personal parenting coach, my wife and my personal parenting coach, our favorite leader when it comes to parenting. And I couldn't tell you how excited I am to have you on the show, Michelle. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Kath. I'm so grateful that I get to be here with you. This is exciting.
Well, I think it's going to be even more exciting for the people that are going to see this. And I'll tell you why, guys. Here's the thing. The stuff that Michelle does, it's near and dear to my heart because I like to break away from the traditional, from the mold. The mold doesn't work. The mold is broken. It's the bad examples. I love how you describe in the intro to Unpunished, your book, how you start getting into it and you're like, I had to live up to this certain reality, this image I had in myself of what a mom should be. And oh my gosh, it resonated so loud for me because that's not only how I felt as a parent, but also as a man. We're looking at how people are approving. Our relationship is our spouse approving. We're trying to get this validation, so we had to do it right. And that's what spun you onto your journey, right? You just realized that wasn't working, right?
Yeah, no, it wasn't working. And my kids were not responding well and it didn't feel good. And I felt like something had to give and I just didn't know what it was. And so for those first few years, I just kept kind of eking along and nothing felt good, or it just kind of felt icky. And then finally there was there were a few things that happened and light bulb moments went off and I was like, I gotta change. I gotta make some serious change.
Okay, so I love that because like you really get into it too, and it's not like you're really like pointing the finger at anybody. You're such an empathetic person, but you're really highlighting. You were blaming your kids, especially Esme, right? You're blaming her. Had to be her problem. It was her issues. And you were so happy when you thought the therapist figured it out. That means I'm a good mom, right? Yeah. And so that's what really spun you into becoming this, well, I think revolutionary parenting coach. Is that what did it for you? You just realized like, well, you're awesome.
Thank you. You're so sweet. I don't know about revolutionary, but I think, yeah, I wanted to make Esme the scapegoat because I think I was the scapegoat in my own family. And so growing up, a lot of blame was placed on me. And so I thought if I could find somebody to blame, somebody other than myself, and I could get that person fixed, Esme, then our family would work better. And Pia was already good, quote unquote. She was the good kid. She was compliant. So I knew that validated me. I was doing something right.
Right.
And so if I could just get Esme fixed, then our family would work well. But that sweet, strong-willed kid would not succumb to any of my manipulations. She just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. And thank God she did, because it got me to change.
And that's what we're really taught, right? Like if it's manipulation, we think if we punish, if they don't do what we say, then they're wrong. And we're trying to twist everything, rewards, punishment, blaming, shaming, just to get them to do what we want, right?
Yep, because that's what was done to us. That's what society says, is that when you see a behavior, you make it uncomfortable for your child, so they want to change the behavior, and then everything is well. But some kids don't respond to that at all, and other kids respond to it internally, which isn't good.
And I noticed, I want to hear more about the problems that you see, but I noticed for me specifically, that same approval seeking, validation seeking, nice guy. Yeah. I realized I wasn't just doing that with my wife, I was doing that with my kids. And I realized I was going to be creating the same approval seeking behaviors. If otherwise they're just going to get in trouble.
That's right. And kids will, kids want to please us. They want it to feel good between us because they believe, and they're wired to want to connect with us for survival, right? They need that connection for food and shelter and water and love and all of the things that will help them survive. And so if they feel that that connection is starting to erode, many kids will just go to complete pleasing, right? I've got to make sure my parent is okay so that I know that my survival is okay. And then that takes them into their relationships, like you're saying, like all this great work you guys do. You're taking that into your relationship, and now you want to please your partner. And so then what happens to what you want?
Yeah, it becomes the same vicious cycle that most of us go through with seeking validation, just try to please my needs. And all we're doing is we're still trying to take those same behaviors. We're trying to control our children, trying to control our spouse. And okay, so tell me, Michelle, beyond that, what are the major, like the top 3, let's say, problems that you see when it comes to parenting?
I mean, one is self-regulation. That's the number one thing. Most parents can't self-regulate in really hard moments, right? They go to yelling, they go to screaming, they go to punishing. Otherwise their prefrontal cortex, their reasoning center goes offline and they act irrational. And when they act irrational and then the kid's acting irrational, nobody's leading, nobody's driving this car and it goes off the rails. And so that's the number one thing, is that we don't know how to self-regulate because our parents probably didn't show us what good self-regulation looked like. So that's probably the number one thing. The number two thing, I think, is that our own childhood, so our own, unmet needs, right, that we're talking about, our own hurts, our own triggers, they tend to come up in our parenting and we react on them. And we think we're reacting to our kids, but we're actually reacting to our old hurts and our old systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that gets us in a lot of trouble because then we try to get our unmet need met by our 4-year-old. That's not going to happen.
Not so good at it yet.
No, they can't. They cannot fulfill your needs, but somehow we think like, I wasn't listened to as a kid, so I get extremely ignited when someone doesn't listen to me, especially my children. But they're kids. They're just acting like a kid. But it threw me into this place where nobody listens to me. I'm not heard. And I'm trying to get heard by my kid. But that's not the good place to, get your need to be heard met.
I love that you're bringing that up, because the first place my mind goes is to when we have struggling spouses. Kathryn and I, like, often it's just one spouse that's in, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're struggling, they're frustrated, things aren't working. Yeah. The key here that I pull from that is, do you want to teach your children to go through the same crap? Because you can break the cycle right now, if not in your own marriage, at least for the good of your children. Like, let your legacy be your inspiration. And then you'll, of course, talk about why this is going to feel so good when you get through it. But I think that's so important to understand. Your kids, man, they don't have to do the same things,
No, they can't. And we just end up getting on this hamster cycle, this hamster wheel, and it just, the repeating of the trauma just keeps going and going. And if you don't put a cog in that wheel, then you end up just being a different version of your parents.
Yeah. And then you're trying to create a good example from a bad example, and that's not really working.
And sometimes you do, you make some good strides, but probably not enough to make like a huge generational shift. And that's what I think we're really looking for in my work. Like, I really want to help you make a generational shift. Yeah,
we're passionate about that too. And I think people like us, like anybody listening, if you've got a belief in something like this, generational shift, that's what we need a lot more of today. A lot more.
Yeah. We need it in the school systems. We need it in all of our relationships. We need it in every public sector that's out there. We need it with our kids. We need to. The old paradigm is very much based in the idea of blame and shame and, control. And that doesn't feel good.
Do you have, just for the average person who's kind of stepping into this, my first example that I would give is like, your child says, I'm afraid. You don't have to be afraid, and you kind of just push it away, letting them feel. Do you have some examples of that you'd like to share from your experience that is really common with parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a good point, Cass. The idea that we don't want our child to feel the icky feelings, right? We want to make sure that we can help them shove it away, because it's hard for us to watch our child struggle. But struggle is part of life. And so if you don't allow them to struggle, then they don't understand that they can fall down and have a really hard time, and then that they can recover, and that builds resilience. So I think that's the first thing that needs to change for people. Like, your mindset has to change. You have to believe that struggle is okay. But a lot of the examples I see is that parents want to save their kids from grades, right? Like, oh, I checked your grades and you need to turn in X, Y, and Z and PDQ, and you have a test tomorrow, and they just get really micromanaging with grades because they don't want their kid to fail. And so they do whatever they can to make sure that their child is going to take care of their grades, when in actuality, it's their child's job to figure out their grades and their tests and all of the things that go on at school. And if you get too involved, you're not really doing them any favors.
Well, you taught us, that was one of the first lessons you taught us, was natural consequences. If she doesn't want to wear the jacket, she'll realize it's cold. It's okay, right?
Totally. And is it worth that? Then the other piece of it, is it worth damaging the relationship? Like, is it worth getting in a huge fight with her about the coat? right? You have to put the coat on. If you don't put the coat on, we're not going outside to play. Like, you go to all the bad things just for the coat. And now you've had this huge schism in your relationship over a jacket. It's just not worth
A jacket.
it.
No. We catch ourselves all the time. That's one of the things we say is that, so we just got a new couch, for example. We're like, well, normally we're like, good kids won't color on the couch, but we're like, it's a couch. It's not worth our relationship over a couch, right? If we didn't want the couch to get colored with toddlers, then we probably shouldn't have got the couch yet. So you have to take some ownership of where you're at in your own mindset. Right.
And it's Esme and Pia had this thing the other day. They're 17 and 14. And so Esme dropped Pia off at school. And Esme came home and she's like, oh, I'm so mad at her. And I go, what'd she do? She slammed my door so hard. She's going to ruin my car. And so I yelled at her. And I said, Ez, honey, do you think your car's worth the relationship you have with your sister? Because now your sister's crying and upset and you send her to school crying. Do you think it's worth it? She's like, no. But in the moment, we don't know how to, maintain our cool, how to self-regulate, how to, see it for what it is, because it is a couch, it is a car. These are big things, but they still aren't worth the relationship we share with people.
I think that's so valuable because I'm sure you probably notice with the work you do with your clients. I know that we certainly do. It's not just the spouse for us. It's not just your kids with you. It's transferring over to all the other relationships in your life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my clients will tell me, oh, I'm using empathy with my coworkers. I'm using empathy, I've got this guy who manages 50 people. He's like, I'm using empathy with all my people at work, and it works. And I was like, yes, it works. It's just how to be in a relationship. And I think that's why, you said it, this work really parallels your and Kathryn's work, because it's just, how are you supposed to be in a loving, kind, respectful, unconditional relationship? It's all the same. We're all just people.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if you know, but I recently filmed the 4th version of my course, my program. I had to redo the whole Men with Kids section because the stuff that we've learned from you was like next level from what I was teaching then. And as you know, I mean, Kathryn had to teach me what empathy was, but most people, they have a little more natural side of empathy to them, but you still have to practice it like anything else, right? Because we want to defend ourselves. I'm not good enough. Oh, if you don't want to listen to me, then I'm a terrible parent or a terrible spouse or whatever, right? Coworker. Right.
Yeah, we take it personally. We take it personally when the kid says, I hate you, or you're mean, or all those things. Then we think it's all about, and we turn it into being all about us, right? Instead of, this is where my kid's at. They're having these big feelings. This is where they're at. Let me hold space for their feelings, as opposed to being like, oh man, now I'm a bad mom. Because we, obviously probably have this old self-critical thought that comes from our own childhood again. And so it crops up when you're parenting.
100%. A big win for me with that, because Vale was constantly telling me how much she hated me because she wanted mama's help. And I was like, but I'm here. I love you, and, doing the work that you've helped us with everything. Recently, I had a big win. Instead of saying, she was, dude, I love you, but not as much right now. So
Sweet girl.
Yeah. So she's thinking, she's
making a change here. It works. It really does. This work works if you do it, but it's sometimes it's really hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to choose connection over punishment or shame or whatever it is that we believe parenting should be. That becomes the really hard challenge too.
I think so. And I think, anything, whenever you get a coach, it's hard work, and that's, you're hiring somebody because they've been where you are right now. And I think this is really valuable for people that are listening to hear, is you're really open about how you punished your kids, yelled at your kids. Same way, how abusive I was to Kathryn. I think that's what sets certain coaches apart, I think. So I appreciate your honesty, by the way. That makes it easier for us to go, oh shit, I messed up today,
Yeah, and I still mess up. I still have even recently yelled at Esme, and I've said the wrong thing to Pia, and I've made many missteps because I'm human and my self-regulation isn't 100% at all. And so I think some experts in any field, you think, oh gosh, they must just be this kind, loving, perfect person. And in fact, I don't think any of us really are. We're just doing our best. And the more we know, the better we do. And that's it. You can't be perfect here.
Yeah, I think I have a belief that it's almost an easy way to make an excuse about why you don't have to push a little harder through this. Because with parenting, I mean, you were upfront. You were like, it's going to get way worse before it gets better, right? And that's not really the approach that we take with our marriage, right? But it did. It actually went crazy bad. But then we started seeing all these wins, right? And I think it's easy for people to go, oh, it's not going to work for me because you're a superhero. Right? You don't mess up. We do with our personal trainers, with our coaches, with the author, whatever. And so, yeah, I love that you're so open. Now, people, your clients, do they latch onto that? Do they get a sense of relief from that? Just knowing, I know my men, they love knowing they're not the only one.
Yeah. Yeah. My client, I have many people who tell me, thank you so much for telling me you screwed up today. Thank you so much for your post that you were your child's first bully. You know, that brought me such relief thinking. And then it's like, it's almost like a form of empathy, right? It's like saying, like putting it out there, like, you know, I'm out here and I'm empathetic to your plight too, because I know there are other people that are messing up out there, like just like me. And so then your guard goes down, right? Then you can say, okay, now I can work on myself because I don't feel like I'm climbing a hill that's way too tall because somebody else did it before me and they're still struggling. And so if I struggle in this process, I don't feel like I'm failing, because I think that can be hard if you constantly feel like you have to be perfect.
Oh yeah, all the time. It's a lot to live up to, right? I often think of, like, I like to look at it like three people. One person, that's the person we don't want to be anymore. I'm the yeller too, right? So I don't want to be that guy anymore. But I will make mistakes on this end. That's the guy I want to be that's not perfect, but you're always leveling up, right?
Yep.
But I'm so happy with being here in the middle as long as I'm still moving upward. And I think if we grasp onto that, because especially with children, I mean, when we came to you, I was like, why won't they just talk? I'll give them the milk. I'll give them the water. I'll take them for the walk. Why are they screaming at me? But the more you get through this and understand, it doesn't matter how perfect you are, because you're not. It's just a process. I think you called it a journey in Unpunished. You said it's just a journey. It's a lifelong journey, right?
It is. And you're constantly learning, and every stage is different. And so that's too, I really want to write a book about teenagers, because I'm in the thick of things right now.
Right.
And it's like, you have to constantly be recalibrating and leveling up your connection pieces, because they don't stop needing it. They just need it in a different way, or a slightly different method, or just a tweak, just a little bit differently. And you have to be constantly on top of it, because you can't just idly sit by and expect the same things to work the whole time you have kids.
And I'm guessing that would fall into my next question. So you talked about Esme getting mad at Pia with the slamming of the car door. So you've done all this work with them. And so my mind always goes to, well, if my paradigm was shit example for my parents, trying to meet my own needs now, not knowing how, and blah, 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 blah. So you've done all this work with your daughters, and is this what we can expect with our kids as they get older? They're still going to have their struggles with it. They're still going to have to, or will the journey be easier?
So what I'll say is that I have a lot of parents around me in my community that have kids the same age as mine. And what I see is that I have it a lot easier than many of the people that I know. Right. It's not perfect again, right? There's still going to be problems, but we get through the problems pretty easily. And my kid, I have such influence. I think that's what I've gained in the last 12 years of doing this, is that I've gained influence with my teenagers. If there's something major that comes down and I just say one thing to Esme, she listens to me and hears me and takes it into consideration and will make change, because she trusts that I'm on her side. And so I think that's the difference. It's like she's applying to college. And so it's this whole thing. I was like, what do you think? You think you should do some community service? She's like, I really do. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down and see where we can go. It wasn't me like, you need to do community service or you're not going to get it. It's a more collaborative relationship, and it feels better, but it's not perfect.
Well, I never will. And plus they're still young enough. Their brain's still developing and all this stuff too. But I feel so blessed to be able to start this at a young age. Your kids were a little bit older when you started, but because then they're going to have it easier in life with all these different relationships, So much easier. And like Esme has a boyfriend, and she gets it big time. She's like, He doesn't know how to regulate his feelings, Mom. And I was like, I love this. No, he doesn't. And she was like, yeah, we probably, I hope he doesn't hear this. We probably won't be together forever. Oh,
But
Well,
she gets it. Like she sees him for who he is, and she understands that he has a hard time with his feelings, and she knows 100%. And she also, like, I've shown her like some of my clips and stuff and some, messages from clients that are having a hard time. And she's like, that was me as a kid. I'm so glad you listened to my feelings. She's like, and she wants to do peace and parenting when she's older, and she understands it all very well. So it's incredible to see her like grow and understand way more than I did at 17.
I think that's massive. It's like she'll be, or your kids will be, my kids, light years ahead, because just being able to have conversations, not having to communicate, just getting through life naturally and understanding where somebody's at because of the work that you've done, right?
Yeah. And say, I don't want to be friends with this person because they aren't, they're not bringing to the table what I want.
Wow. It does make me kind of wonder, this is totally off tangent. I wonder, because the kids are way ahead, are they going to struggle finding the right relationships?
Let's hope so. Let's really hope so, because, I think you have to be picky about who you partner with. And I don't know if many of us are. We really go on this idea of like, infatuation and love. And are we looking at the right things when we pick our partners? And will this make them pickier?
I think that's beautiful. Maybe the journey's a little longer because there's not the pool is a little less. Yeah, but it's going to be so much better. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Because you might just discard a lot of people, which is okay in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I hadn't really thought about it. My kids are young and I do not want to think about them dating yet. But yeah, that's a really cool perspective. I'm going to talk to Kathryn about that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of men in my program. They're all spinning onto your Instagram. I'm not sure if any of them have reached out, but I do this because I think it's so important. And a lot of the disconnect in marriage comes from the different views of the way they were raised, how they're parenting now. Have you got any advice that I can give my men for when they're trying to do connection over correction and their wife is like, you need to punish them? I tell them how I want them to respond. It's a whole module in the course separate from parenting. But I wonder if you have any advice on how to lead a spouse, either side, in this new way of thinking when my parents would never let that happen.
I know, right? I hit this question a lot because I have, my following is mom centric. I have a lot of moms, and so they'll say, their husbands or their partners don't want to bring along, they don't want to, grasp onto this new idea of connection. And my biggest advice I always say is lead by example. Don't try to beat it over their head. Don't try to say, oh my God, you can't say that. Don't do that. Michelle said in the podcast that you're not so, it's like, no. Don't do that, because you are going to get into a huge fight and you're going to make them defensive and you're never going to get your point across, and they're going to feel criticized and they're going to feel as if you're judging them, and nobody is ever going to get anywhere that way. So I just try to lead by example and just say, this is what I'm doing. It's working for me. If you want to talk about it or if you're interested in it, let me know. Let them on their own journey. And I know a lot of people say, well, but they're damaging the kids. But they're the parent. They're also the parent, and that's their relationship to navigate. And you cannot tell somebody else how to parent unless they want you to.
So it's exactly the same way I teach my men for everything else. So man or woman, you're providing structure for the direction you want to go. This is something that it matters to you. It's your core values, how I want to parent, and you're going to build your relationship and hopefully inspire your partner.
Yeah. And, this is how we parent too, right? We don't shove things down kids' throats. Like, don't be mean to your brother. Like, you're going to time out. You're unkind. It's the same idea. And I think that's what we've come, that's what our society has come to, is this idea of shame and blame. And so we don't want to parent that way either. We want to parent by example. Are you leading a moral life? Are you displaying unconditional love? Are you forgiving? Are you apologizing? Are you modeling all the things that you want your kid to display? It's the same thing in your romantic relationship too.
Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same thing as you were speaking. Like, it's so hard because I have the phrase that I use. You're making all these changes, and it is frustrating when your wife doesn't notice or doesn't care or is fighting you. But that's what I've noticed. At first it was with my marriage, then we found you with parenting, and there's so many parallels. It is frustrating. Your partner might not see eye to eye. We struggle on different things with the parenting thing. We work together and support each other. Other partners probably don't have that same alliance yet. And then there's the whole side with your kid not getting it, your kid resisting. I say running into the side of your car. Is there a time frame that you see overall with parents when their kids, because it starts ugly and then it starts to get, you're seeing all these wins really fast actually. But is there a general time frame you see with your clients?
It depends on the age of the kid, really. Because if you start like you and Kathryn did, you have really young kids. And so you can see wins really quickly because you don't have 14 years of shame and resentment and punishment built up. And so you guys will see, you know, results faster. When I have parents who come in with 16, I have clients right now of 16 and a 17-year-old, and it's taking us a minute because those kids have operated with punishments for so long. And then once we let go of the punishments, just like in your house, you know, once you let go of that control piece, the pendulum swings way over here. But for older kids, it might stay there a little bit longer, right? Because they're like, oh, I have control. I haven't had control in 16 years. I'm taking it. I need it. I want it so badly. And so it takes them a lot longer to calibrate back. But it works and it happens. You just have to be patient and you have to believe in the idea of connection, and you get there. And then, you know, I have the same client. I'm thinking of the kids like starting to say, I love you more, starting to hug the parents more, starting to ask to hang out more. Like you see little tiny glimpses and then it just begins to build and build. But you have to be in the long journey here.
It's so incredible to me. I mean, I've noticed the parallels with the work that we do to the work that you do, but on our calls, we didn't talk about this sort of stuff. No. So it's such a fun conversation because that's exactly it. Like I call it a patience formula. So the amount of time the pain has been going on times the volume or how difficult that pain, the trauma, how bad is it, equals, less the amount of time that you can handle hurting. Well, as a parent, it's your responsibility to kind of get through this. So it's a little different than mine. Yeah. But the idea being, it's not really mathematical, but you got to follow through. You got to be consistent, right?
Yeah, you have to do the work, unfortunately. And I had the same couple, you know, the dad keeps coming. Well, he's not changing. My son's just not changing. And I'm like, well, what connections pieces did you do this week? I don't know. And I'm like, well, you know, you have to do the hard work of changing yourself before your kid will change. It's probably the same in your marriage stuff, is that your relationship isn't going to change unless you do. The dynamic is going to stay steady unless there's some sort of major shift. Yeah,
and you can only control one person, you, right? That's so whether or not your partner's on board, whether or not your children are there yet, you can only show up and be proud of who you are, right? Yeah. And guys, and I wasn't perfect either. I mean, I think our first 6 calls, you're like, did you do the one-on-one time? And we're like, not yet. Because it was a lot. It's a lot to change, right? We had to get our headspace there. Right?
Yeah, and I think our society says productivity, tasks, work, those things are important. If you don't have those things, then you're not succeeding as a person. And what I say in my work is you have to put connection first. Because if you don't put connection first, all of the other things fall apart. And it's hard to recalibrate and say, oh my gosh, I have to do connection over all the things, my list of things to do. And so that's a really different way of thinking about life.
Oh yeah. But think about it. It's kind of like when men come to me and they're like, well, I provide. And it's like, right. Yeah, but one day you're going to quit your job, man. Then who are you going to hang out with?
Yeah,
you need a connection, right?
Yeah, you're going to retire. And then you're sitting in this house with this woman who you don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just love the parallels here. This is phenomenal. So like, even if you're not working with me or Kathryn, I think you need to check out Peace and Parenting. Follow Michelle on Instagram. Is there another way you want people to get a hold of you, Michelle?
Yeah, you can check out my podcast. It's also Peace and Parenting on any of the podcasting platforms. I'm on Facebook too. I have a little following there, which is great. But Instagram's my major home.
Major home. Yeah, guys, I highly, highly recommend it. Michelle puts up posts every day that you can learn from. You're not really full of fluff. It's all just valuable lessons every single day. And I think it's important. It's a daily dose. several times a day, actually, if you want to get this in your head, start making a change at home. It's a much more rewarding and comforting. I call it a yes tone in my home, but it's a yes tone. It's high energy of fun, excitement. Every day's like a Disney song instead of this freaking horror movie, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It's better. Oh, and then the other place too, you can always buy the book Unpunished. And that's like no, that's great. It's like I forgot. It's like a little tiny glimpse into my journey and the things I think are important in parenting. And then I give some anecdotal stuff on my clients too. And it's a short, quick read. And
it's a good read, guys. And your coaching is phenomenal. Guys, if you're looking for actual help real fast, then reach out to her on Instagram, because you handle all of your Instagram and you take care of your people. I love it.
Yes, I take care of my people. All those
people. I love it. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. I have had a blast with you today.
Thank you, Kaz. I so appreciate it. See you soon.
Sounds good, buddy. Bye.
Bye.